hunting monsters on and off duty. The Blueline Bowhunters podcast starts right now.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Blueline Bowhunters podcast. Matt Steele, Jared Bruno, we don't matter. We're here with Donnie Vincent still. If you didn't listen to part one of this podcast, it was incredible, if I do say so myself. I'm biased, but it was pretty awesome. Again, Donnie, thanks for being on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is an honor to sit down with you two.
Same for us.
Yeah.
Same for us. Yeah, we're good. Yep.
Honor for us as well. So in the last podcast at the end, I shut her down at a cliffhanger moment. We were just getting into, we talked about who you are, where you came from, and how you got to where you're at now in the hunting community. But you've become such a steward for the outdoor community and for hunting. Hunting's under fire right now.
Yeah.
Big time. Our way of life, what we love to do, it's under attack in pretty much every state, Congress, capital in the United States.
Yeah.
You look at what's happening in Canada right now.
Yeah.
Bad things.
Yes.
Hunting in Canada might not be there.
A thing.
Yeah.
Soon.
Which is
nuts.
Insane.
Beyond bizarre, because even though we're all hunters and gatherers, we all come from a hunting community that's true wilderness, like a lot of true wilderness up there, far more than there are people.
There's a lot of people that depend on hunting, on hunting.
I think all the outfitters.
Yeah, if they shut hunting down in Canada, I think they would just keep hunting.
Yeah,
like
they
I think
would
it would get to that point of saying, I want to obey, I want to follow the law, I don't want to be a rule breaker. However, you are now infringing upon what it means to be a human being,
right? And
I need to step away from what it is that your organized laws. They no longer speak to me, and they no longer contribute to us as a society. So I now have to go a separate way.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd like to get into that with you because I've listened to several of your podcasts, and you can just tell, even listening. I mean, podcasts are mostly being listened to. You have such a passion for it. For hunting, and I think like we discussed in the last episode, Jared and I were born and raised as hunters. Our dads did it. Our dad showed us how to do it. You forged your own way. Mm-hmm. So you more so than a lot of people, maybe because even Jared and I, even though we love it and have a passion for it, you built this yourself. You built the love for it yourself, and you know what life could be like if you don't have it, because that's how you were born. That's what you're born into.
Yeah.
So I just want to touch on several things, and I want to get into past hunts and maybe some weird ethical situations that non-hunters have. Mm-hmm. I know you had a particular brown bear hunt that things maybe didn't go your way, and you shared that, and it kept because you're authentic and you're genuine, and you want to throw it out there and say, "Hey, listen, this happens. It's part of hunting. We get it. I get why non-hunters don't like some of that stuff." And then I loved when you were on Rogan, you shared an argument against vegetarians that I thought was just so smart, and it's just a way of like, hello.
Yeah,
because
it's in everything.
Yeah,
yep. No matter what,
if you're a human being, you have a footprint, and people can say, if I'm a vegan, I'm wearing fake leather, I'm not contributing to the death of animals, it's impossible. We are human beings. We make impact. Whether if you're eating something that's made of soy, you probably are having a much greater impact than I am as a hunter, because that field is being tilled under of getting rid of all natural vegetation. It's getting rid of all natural bacteria that lives in the soil and rhizomes that live in the soil and all the insects that live in the soil and the invertebrates all the way up to the birds, to the reptiles, amphibians, and all the way up to the mammals. And you're getting rid of all of that, and you're growing a single plant that has been genetically modified that is not good for your body at all, just so you can rule with your iron thumb and say, "Hey, I didn't take an animal's life," which we all agree is very difficult.
Absolutely.
To take an animal's life. It's very easy to see. If somebody says to me, "Hey, I'm a vegetarian," I can absolutely appreciate that. You don't want to engage with the eating of meat. You don't want to engage with the loss of an animal life. I totally appreciate you, but you can't tell me that you have then a better hierarchy or a healthier diet or less of an impact than I have. You probably have more of an impact. I know you have a less healthy diet, and it's going to affect your body and your mind, and it's just there's no way to equalize it, right? It's sad to take an animal's life.
If there's a separation there, and if it's a fine line or whatever, you can't tell us what we have to do, because we're not going to tell you what you have to do or what you should think, or the more anything, like. Don't tell us we can't hunt. We're not going to tell you that you can't be a vegetarian. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, like, to each their own. You know what I mean? But
look at human beings as a whole. Okay, let's just not even argue, because we try to talk about things as though they're black and white, and they're always gray.
Right.
That's the thing. We, especially as passionate people, we want to say, well, this is black and this is white. This is what I believe. This is what you believe. But really, there's shades. If you are a cognizant person, you have any wherewithal on any level, you realize that no argument is hard and fast, that there are things that drift one way or the other, and there's things that kind of ebb and flow. And in regards of having, going through decision making, look at people as a whole.
Right.
Let's just look at a cross section right now as a whole. Let's just take the United States. Look at the rate of obesity.
Right.
Look at the rate of people that have almost no, like, people think of fitness. People confuse fitness with having abs and pecs and biceps and going to the beach and meeting a young lady. That is not fitness. Fitness is having the ability to function and to jump and to run and to be strong and fight for your life and be selected as a mate and to procreate. Like, that is fitness. That's what fitness means. That means you are having babies. You are contributing to the population. That means your offspring is going to be stronger than you are, faster than you are, smarter than you are. That's what fitness is.
That's what you're striving for.
And our fitness is going the other way. So if your argument is that if your argument is that we are eating too much meat or we are hunting too much or anything along these lines, that we need our wilderness to be a zoo, that animals live in harmony, that there aren't any difficult and sad days as in our wildlife, and that we as human beings would do much better just to do factory farming as far as row crops, and then to eat this sustained vegetarian diet. Like, you're absolutely lying to yourself. And if you believe that, just look at a cross section in the United States, because we're eating less meat than we've ever eaten.
Right. Yep.
And we have an obesity epidemic that has never even been conceptualized.
But there's so much shit in all of our food anymore. What
did we just talk about on the way over? What did you and I talk about? You remember?
Well,
obviously my words mean a lot to you, Jared.
Last night was the dye in foods and stuff.
Yeah. So we talked about, in my family with my daughter, we noticed a difference that we gave her ice cream, sprinkles, right? Red dye number 40, terrorist.
Yeah.
Right? Terrorist. I would put her up against Osama bin Laden in his heyday because she's that bad.
Yeah.
But we talked on the way here about sugar.
Sugar and what has happened in the United States? Testosterone.
Yeah. Testosterone.
Where are the men at?
Yes.
Yep.
Where have they gone?
Penises are shrinking.
Yep.
Testicles are shrinking.
Yep.
Sperm count is shrinking.
Disappearing.
Yep.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have brought that to light recently in our side of things, because, we listen to Gritty Bowman podcast, Joe Rogan, people are seeing that, and they're getting these blood tests and stuff done, and they're taking, there was I don't want to say it right off the bat, as if I heard this somewhere and I don't remember where it's at, but they took this test from
we'll say it's
male.
Loosely 100%.
Yeah, it's loosely 100%. But from a male from the 1920s, his testosterone levels were 900 versus today's male. They tested 100 or 1,000 males from a university or whatever, and they were like 58.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Drastic.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's eye opening. So they got they got these tests done, their blood work done, and they were incredibly low because they were feeling lethargic. They were getting soft, and they just basically felt like hell. You know what I mean? Sleep, deprived. Your habits are off, and we feel this on our job nonstop. So I started looking into that stuff, and but. It's just
at one point in my career. So when I came out of the academy, it was 174 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal.
Twisted steel.
steal last names. You can see what I did there.
Yeah.
So, anyhow,
Always.
TJ just showed up. He's here at the back door. He just looked in and gave me a thumbs up.
He did.
Yeah, but so when I graduated the academy, but then I quickly, got on the job. I ate bad. Not going to lie to you. I ate bad, fast food, that sort of a thing, because you're going and running, and I ballooned up to 215. Things got bad. And I went to the doctor and said, like, listen, I don't know what's happening to me.
Sure.
I mean, exercising still, and I go, but things are bad. And he told me about, like, first responders syndrome is what he called it, where you have adrenaline dumps.
Sure.
You're dumping adrenaline, right, constantly. And he goes, what comes after that is like almost like a depression like state where you eat and you feel the need to eat. And I mean, that's kind of a different road to go down, but I think he says that when you have those adrenaline dumps, it also kills testosterone. And I kind of felt like that's where I was at, but and it took a lot of hard work to get that weight off, to work back to it. But back to the vegetarian argument, it's a circle of life, right?
It is.
Where what do you think feeds these plants that you're eating?
Yeah, I mean, and in this day and age, it's going to be just a complex fertilizer and soil treatments and then irrigation, and they're just trying to grow the crop, because everything boils down to money, right? It all boils down to population, and so people are trying to grow crops as fast as possible for as cheap as possible to feed as many people as possible, because that's what makes the cash register ring, and that's what gets people fed and allegedly sustaining. But it's a far cry from who we were, right? And it's not even hunting and non-hunting and hunting and anti-hunting. It's being human, and then being some sort of shell of a human being. Because if we were to take away, as we said in the first podcast, if we were to take away the grocery stores, if we were to take away the water coming out of your faucet, overnight you are a hunter. Overnight, if we can't irrigate crops and we cannot do all this stuff, overnight you are now wearing animal skins, eating animal flesh, finding berries. You're scavenging, you're salvaging any calories that you can get. And I know some people might be listening to this and thinking, well, you're talking about something that is fictitious. You're talking about something that is la land. Well,
no, it could be right around the corner.
Well, it could be right around the corner. I mean, look at COVID, right? This silly time in life where we try to convince ourselves that this essentially non-event. Yes, I know people lost their lives, but people are always going to lose their lives. Look at how people reacted. I mean, it's as though you set free absolute anarchy, and from people from buying toilet paper to literally I could show you 35 ways to wipe your butt without toilet paper, and people were literally running to the store to buy toilet paper. And so it just shows where the mindsets are and where people live at. And look, we evolved as hunters and gatherers. We started by the scavenging of meat. We very likely would steal meat that other real predators, like keystone predators, would take: lions, tigers, bears, things like that. That would really kill large animals, and we would steal a quarter or whatever. People still, as late as like the 50s and 60s, I know some mountain men in Alaska would find moose that wolves killed, and then they'd sneak in there when the wolves weren't there, and they'd steal a hind quarter, and that's what they would, be some of their meat and things like that. Then the discovery of fire, and then the cooking of meat, and then we just started to evolve as a people, and then with the advent, we used to move around. We used to move, and our feces wouldn't be concentrated, and our excrement and our urine wouldn't be concentrated. We'd be moving constantly to find different forest crops and berries, and we'd have to find different animals, and our females could only feed one child, and potentially two, but likely 1-2 if resources were really good. And we kind of kept this population in check, and we were able to move around and live off the resources. Well, then we have the advent of agriculture, and literally at that moment the clock started, and now we could be sedentary. Now, instead of you finding your own food or being part of a tribe and contributing with the food, now you can sit at home, and someone down the street is growing food for you and they're going to sell you your food. Now, they might be trading you food. They might be trading you maize or corn for salt, right? That was a form of currency back then.
And so bartering and
all sorts. So you have all this stuff. But now we're no longer traveling. Now we have an excess of food, and now we can feed maybe 2 babies. Now we have this population that's starting to grow, and already our gut systems and already our musculature and everything starts to kind of evolve away from that. And so we become a weaker people, and we misdevelop our minds. We misdevelop our physicality, and then we start to see wildlife. When we start telling stories and writing stories and making movies, we start to be anthropomorphic with wildlife, and so we start to tell, like, there's mama bear and daddy bear and bear cubs, and this is a really crude thought, but when I killed this ram right here, I posted on Instagram, and some lady wrote me, and she said, "I can't believe you killed the daddy ram. He was probably on his way home for dinner when you killed him." She said something along those lines. And I said, "Listen, I just want you to, I've never fought with anyone online.
Right.
If somebody has said something to me, I happily would engage with them.
But something just hit a button or something. Like chime in.
I just said to her, this ram, okay, would literally shove his father off a cliff so that he could breed his mother.
Right.
That he would literally kill his own father so he could breed his mother at the time of going through the breeding. And now Mother Nature has ways of dispersing these selections, and in young rams and young deer, they young males, they move territories because they don't want to get beat up or killed. And so invariably they're avoiding other stately males because they want to live. Right. And then they find other females, and so it kind of stops inbreeding and things like that. But, there is no harmony. Now, if you were to remove human beings from the face of the earth, like snap your fingers, they're all gone. Okay, the earth would definitely trend back into some sort of harmonic state, right? It would start to go that direction for a certain time. There'd be secondary plants would really take over, like noxious, non-indigenous secondary plants would really start to be obnoxious in the forest. They would choke out our indigenous species. Certain fishes and certain reptiles and certain wasps, things that are non-indigenous, would really start to take over these systems, and there'd be this kind of evolution of these systems that would move and change, and then there'd be some sort of catastrophe. There'd be a meteor, or there would be some sort of, there'd be a solar flare. Something would start to change the shape. We'd run into another ice age.
Completely change everything again.
Absolutely. It hits a reset button.
Right.
And so kills all the non-indigenous, kills all, I'm kind of making this up because, this stuff hasn't happened for a very, very long time. But that is what this earth is. We can spin it however we want politically. We can spin it however we want. It's this group versus this group. But really, we are all animals. Mm-hmm. There are 5 great apes, I think, right? Chimpanzees, orangutans, mountain gorillas, forest gorillas, and human beings. There are 5 great apes. We are a great ape. We just happen to have large brains. So we've invented airplanes. We've invented automobiles. We have opposable thumbs. Yep. And we have this reasoning of coming up because of our reasoning and because our consciousness. We have this ability to make things up. And we can say, like, oh, we can't hunt grizzly bears anymore in British Columbia because that's mean for the grizzly bear. And I know it's BS because they come up with a law in which you can still kill a grizzly bear, but you can only take its meat. You can't take its hide, and you can't take its skull.
Unbelievable.
So you're trying to shut down trophy hunting when in reality, if we're hunting a population, you should be allowed to take its hide and take its skull. You took the animal.
Yeah, you took the animal.
You should be allowed to take it all, but you're just trying to make it a political issue. And then I just read, I talked to a biologist last week in Alberta, and I don't know if this is true, so I'll give it that caveat, but he said more grizzly bears are being killed now in BC than were ever killed by hunters because they're having so many problem bears that they're having to euthanize. So that's the thing is people make a passionate decision, generally from the city, generally from their living room. I kind of call it living room muscles.
Right.
Like if you guys as police officers talk to one of your buddies, you're like, I had to go into this house and I was by myself. My backup was still 8 minutes out. There's a dude in the back room and he had a pistol, and I don't know if he had his daughter hostage or I don't know if he had his wife hostage. I had to go in there. I had to engage. And, you know, you're sitting there, you have your buddies sitting in the living room. And they're like, oh, dude, if I was in that situation, like, I go in there, I have my flashlight. I just, and maybe, but maybe
you don't
not.
know because
you
you're
weren't
not
there.
you're not in that situation. Yeah.
And so and you're making decisions on wildlife, and you're not there to see the wildlife. You're not there to see
What's
how
happening.
many
Right.
moose calves are getting ripped down. Is there an imbalance? Can we help this imbalance?
Right.
You know, and are you just looking at tourist dollars, or are you just looking at, hey, the more grizzly bears, the better, you know?
Yep.
And
Unless you're there in the moment and know exactly what's going on, then you shouldn't have a say in how it works.
And looking at real data, we are not good these days.
Right.
We just learned this with COVID. We are not good these days at all at looking at real data. We're really good at spinning the parabola of information to saying what we wanted to say without actually going on any facts at all.
Right.
And so we're very good at being, well, I wanted to kind of say this, so I'm going to go this way.
The other thing is hurting people's feelings today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what the big deal is. Like, I'm okay if you hurt my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Or disagree. It probably doesn't hurt your feelings. You probably just disagree with it.
But everybody is so focused on making everybody happy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's not going to be happy. Let me tell you. If there's some type of argument, whatever it is, somebody's going to have their feelings hurt, and that's just the way it is. Like, you can't get hung on that. You know what I mean? Like, with whatever's going on, if it's in the hunting industry, if it's political, with everything that's going on in this country, it's ridiculous.
It's a bizarre time,
Yep.
and if you think about it, just for me, it just really comes down to looking at data, looking at who we are as people, what can wild areas handle, what can we do to enhance them, how can we fix it and help and contribute rather than just detract.
Right.
And even as hunters, we're a far cry from, even as a group, we're a far cry from who we were. Like,
right.
we used to be a people that would hunt for food and for skin and for tool, and we would appreciate large animals because you see this stately character that comes from a pristine area. And so the heads that we would collect weren't a bragging right. Now they're a bragging right. Now we kind of make this as a resume. We have this some assembly of, hey, I shot this deer of this size, so I'm better at hunting than you are because you shot this deer of this size, and or you used this weapon, or we have all these kind of ideas and parameters that we set up to try to stage each other off of one another. But in reality, we used to look at these heads as, okay, so this valley, this mountain range, this lake system really produces very large heads. So giving me the indication that there are a lot of resources there. The animals are doing very, very well. And I'm very fortunate to spend time in this special place. And we want to recognize this special place because we don't want to overharvest. We don't want to underharvest. We don't want to pollute. We don't want to overstep our boundaries. We want to slip in as though we are a keystone predator that belongs there. We want to take as little as possible, and we want to do it under the most ethical circumstances that we can, under fair chase, under hunting well and good. Take our animal products that we've earned, and then we move out of the country and back into wherever it is that we're going to live, or if we're going to live there, or whatever. I'm making some of this up, but that's really
leave no trace.
Yeah, or
things,
leave a
right.
minimal trace. That's really what we were designed to do as hunters, and it's become, like most things that human beings touch, it's become a popularity contest. It's become a I use this weapon, or I use this weapon, and then and that's a sensitivity for me too, because I'm a guy that hunts with a longbow or a recurve or a compound bow and even high-powered rifles. But then guys just want to cut. People want to cut as many corners as possible because woodsmanship is dying. It's not dead. It's dying.
Right.
Craftsmanship is dying. Like, people don't want to pour themselves into the areas that they're interested in anymore. Like, good hunters used to be the pillars of a community,
right?
Because those were the men that understood, men and women probably mostly men, that understood kind of the biology of the system and the biological engagements and kind of how the ecosystem all function, predator, prey, plants, animals, flora, fauna. Like the hunter kind of understood the systems, and so he was a pillar in the community. And then that slowly kind of degraded down to what some people confuse as like the bub or redneck or whatever.
Right.
So it's just it's an interesting time, I think, for hunters, and unfortunately we're under fire because people kind of like what Jared was saying, is that people are sensitive to these things these days, and everyone wants to kind of they all want preservation, they don't want conservation, and everyone has this idea of, all of these things are sad, right? When a baby whale dies, it's sad, or when something gets hit by a car, it's sad, and it is, and I totally agree. But anytime we're moving through time and space, there's going to be
sadness.
There's going to be loss. There's going to be gain. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be immigration and immigration. There's going to be gain and loss, and that's what populations of animals and plants. That's how natural systems work. And the world has just gotten itself in.
It's trying to be controlled now. They're trying to control it.
Yes,
right.
Instead of letting it take its natural process.
Mm-hmm. And we as hunters too. We're not doing a good job as a group ourselves, and like when I write for a film that we're putting out, I obviously just want to tell the story as it happened. I want to be as authentic as possible. I want to be as vulnerable as possible, but I also want to write it in a manner of which might answer some people's questions.
Right,
so I don't want to just talk about bear hunting, that I'm killing bears, or that they're the scary animal, and that it's my right to hunt bears, and if you don't like it, you can go to hell or whatever. I want to write it and say, these are how bear populations are working right now. When we engage, when we go on a hunt for a bear, we're looking for a very singular bear. We're looking for a certain age class of bear, a certain size of bear. We're looking to remove very few individuals from a system, and we're looking to contribute to the system by removing a singular individual. We're not looking to remove a sow with cubs. We're not looking to shoot multiple individuals. We're trying to hunt as well and good as we possibly can, as ethical as we can, as fair chase as we can, and leaving a system hopefully as good or better than when we found it, and maybe removing one individual and improving a resource and making other resources more available to the individuals that are left. And
oftentimes are not. I mean, hunters play a big role, obviously, in conservation, and more so us than anybody else, especially the non-hunters out there that have all these hate groups, for instance. Yeah, it's just...
So,
go ahead, Matt.
So you have an Instagram. You're pretty active on it too, I've noticed, and it's unique. Like, you get paid a lot of compliments, but I see that you actually engage maybe the haters more, in not a snarky way, but more of an educational way, explaining it.
Exactly.
And I know I asked you earlier, we don't like putting out a lot of stuff, because of like people who might want to come after us as police officers, or you as like a steward of the hunting community, but you said that you get a lot of positive mail.
Lots.
From anti-hunters. Do they just say like, hey, we appreciate you explaining it this way, or we appreciate the thought? I guess 2 parts. One, what are they saying to you? And 2, what do you see as the biggest complaint from anti-hunters, or the biggest questions that they're asking you?
Sure. Some of the compliments that I'll get are people that just say, hey, I really appreciate the way you go about hunting. I really appreciate how you're communicating. I see that you went moose hunting, and like, for instance, I posted a photo one time of a young bull walking past me, and this woman wrote, and then I suppose you killed him. And then I wrote to her and I said, no, point of fact, I didn't. The area that I was hunting has a lot of elder state bulls that are nearing the end of their life. They're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. They're not going to make it very many more winters. That's the animal that I wanted to kill. That's the animal that I wanted to hunt. Yes, they have the biggest antlers. Yes, they have the biggest bodies, which lead to the most meat, the largest hide, the biggest antlers. It just kind of comes with, like I was talking about, there's something intrinsic about killing an animal that is in a pristine area that is utilizing all of the resources in that area and not killing a younger animal.
It's a prime animal.
It's a prime animal. It's ripe for the taking.
Yes. Right.
And on that particular hunt, I didn't get a moose. I could have shot probably 10 moose, but I didn't take a moose because I didn't see the right moose in the right scenario. I saw one moose that was old enough, big enough, grand enough to kill, but he was on the other side of a narrow river.
Right.
And I came to full draw. I was bow hunting. I came to full draw. I put my pin on his rib cage, and I settled in. And it's a shot that I can make, but I felt like there was too much wind channeling down the actual body of water. I was on one side, he was on the other, and I didn't know what that wind was going to do to my arrow as it crossed the body of water. So I said, you know what? Let's just wait. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to shoot. Hopefully we'll get another crack at this guy at another day. And we didn't. I went home without a moose. No big deal. And so then she wrote back to me and something along the lines of like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I assumed. I
appreciate your answer, the way you answered it probably.
Absolutely. And I've had people say, I've had non-hunters, anti-hunters say, I've always been against hunting, or I've never thought about hunting. But now in reading your words and seeing some of your films and how you're going about it, I think I'm kind of ready to
taking an interest, but
also engaging in my own food. So I've had anti-hunters say, I think this fall I'm going to try to I have a garden, I travel to the woods, and I like picking blueberries and raspberries. And this fall, I think I'm going to try to take a couple of rabbits. I have a lot of rabbits in my area. I think I'm going to try to take a couple of cottontail rabbits, and then I want to see what that feels like to provide myself, or even sometimes even kind of funny is I'll have people that will write me and say, I'm not a hunter, but then they'll go on to describe to me that they actually hunt. But because they're not chasing large deer or large sheep or large bears, they say, well, I'm not a hunter. All I kill are and hunt and kill are squirrels and rabbits, and I take small game, or I'll take a small doe, but I just do it for meat. I'm not a hunter, and obviously they are. They just they're assimilating hunting with something else, with that resume of horns and antlers, and so I get some really good engagements with these people, and get to have some really great conversations, and they have some really great questions. But most of the negative stuff is almost always they're wrong. Almost always they're dead wrong. They'll say, can't believe you killed a mountain lion. They're endangered. Not true. Right. Can't believe you killed a mountain lion in British Columbia. That's illegal. Not true. Can't believe you killed a mountain lion. Their population can't handle it. Point of fact, before I even hunted the mountain lion, because I wasn't sure, the outfitter that I was hunting with is a dear friend of mine. And he said, hey, like, I have a lot of cats that I have to hunt because my area is really heavily impacted by cats.
Right.
Well, I didn't believe him. Even though he's a dear friend of mine, I didn't believe him. He's not a scientist. And while he is seeing cats in his area and he's assuming that he has his finger on the pulse of the area, I'm not going to take his word for it. So I went and met with the ministry biologist for the area, and I just said, hey, can you kind of walk me through the cat population? Because this gentleman that I'm hunting with wants me to kill one, and I need to kind of hear it from you. Or I kind of want to engage with you and hear it from you. And he said, he's like, yeah, actually, he's like, if we could, we'd like you to kill 2 or 3.
Oh, wow.
Because they are really hammering the sheep population in that area. The sheep are very, very vulnerable in those cliffs. The cats are very successful hunting them, and we really have to kind of, this area has not been hunted very hard for cats for a while, and we need to kind of catch up on the cats here in a little bit.
Right. Just to ask you a question, so you're kind of going into the hunting of this cat, which is in your rafters, the skin's in your rafters right now. So the way you're setting it up is that you didn't want to hunt this cat. You had an issue, or what was your view of not wanting to hunt cats before you go into this hunt of the cat?
Yeah, so it's really funny because my friend Ben basically called me out. He's like, hey, he got a new hunting area that he's very proud of, and rightfully so. He's a very hardworking outfitter. He loves wildlife, loves animals. He's an excellent hunter, does it ethically, does it for the right reasons. He's fantastic. And he said, I think you should come hunt cats. And I said, I don't have any interest in hunting cats. And he's like, well, why not? And I said, well, the whole dog thing, the whole hounds thing, I don't want to run cat with hounds. It just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel ethical. It just kind of like slants the. And he's like, well, you're the one that's always saying, like, don't kind of knock it till you try it, or don't judge a book by its cover. So I really don't see how you can say all of this stuff or kind of feel all this stuff, and you're not even coming and having it done. And I said, you know what? You're right. You
Touche.
Call my bluff, touche. So I said, I want to talk to the ministry biologist before I come. I want to see really where the cat population is. And he said, I'll line it up. And I went and did that. And then I'll tell you a secondary story to it as well. But so I went out there and hunted, and I didn't care for, maybe I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I didn't, I don't want to recant that, but
that's all right. Yeah.
Some of the guys that I hunted with on this hunt, I didn't care for.
Right.
They were there for the wrong reasons, you believe?
They weren't there for the wrong reasons. They just didn't really, I don't think they held the cats in the same regard as which I held the cats. I don't think they held the wilderness in the same regard as which I did. And so kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. And, but I fell in love with the dogs, and I was like, I saw them. At first I thought they hated the cat and wanted to kill the cat. And maybe that's true. But as I spent time with the dogs, I saw that they really kind of loved this pursuit of the cat.
Yes. The chase.
And then I thought the cat was running in fear. And so, until I saw the cat, what's really interesting. First of all, I tracked the cat. I don't recall the facts, but Ben and I tracked the cat for like 18 or 19 kilometers without any dogs, because he was going in too dangerous of stuff for the hounds to be let out. It was too cliff
areas, yeah.
Too icy, too slippery, and it was.
And those dogs mean the world to these guys.
Oh, those dogs are expensive dogs.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mean the world to
Not
them,
just
but they're
that, but
also
like
an asset.
Yeah, they're a family member to those guides too.
Yeah. Oh, they are
talking with some of those guides. Yeah,
and the houndsman, his name is Robin. Like he's like his dogs are in the house. Like we saw photos of him and his wife watching TV, and they have like 6 hounds on their couch.
Yeah, and they would be devastated if something would happen to these dogs.
Oh yeah, they have, and it has almost nothing to do. I mean, they're valuable dogs, but they're family members to these guys. And I'm not just overselling that they're literally, like when we talked about, hey, we found the cat track, he's like, hey, you guys, like, I can't release the dogs. He pointed out to me, he's like, you see all these cliffs? And I said, yep. And like, I was nervous being on these cliffs as well, because there's so much ice there. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like a nightmare, because it was just enough grade that if you lost your footing,
you're going.
It'd be one of those scenarios where, like, you're dragging your nails, you're dragging your boots, and you're going to go about 2 miles an hour off a 1,000-foot drop or off a 500-foot drop, and it's too slippery to get off. So you're literally, once you start going, your momentum's going that way. Like, you're going.
Yeah, you're
going to fall to your death.
Yeah.
And so he's like, hey, I just want to tell you guys, like, I'm not releasing my dogs. Like, not a. And then he pointed to a power line. There's a big, huge power line kind of cutting through the mountain that fed this area for electricity. Not where we were, but a town down below. And he's like, if the cat gets past that power line, I'll release hounds. So okay. So we just tracked this dog for 18 or 19 kilometers, or it might have been over 20. And I could have killed that cat. If I had a rifle or was willing to take a very long bow shot, I could have killed that cat without dogs. Right. Because he kept leading us to all of his kill sites. Mm-hmm. He'd lead us we'd find a dead mule deer, and they'd be eaten. I'm talking about skeletons. He'd bring us to a dead sheep, bring us to a dead mule deer, bring us to a dead sheep.
I was just going to say that too.
Why was he taking you to these kill sites?
Two reasons, I think, and this is all, I'm just going to make this up because I don't actually know.
Loosely 100% true.
Loosely 100% true. They, as I understand it, the biologist was telling me that very often they are harassed by wolves. Okay. And so 2 or 3 wolves will start to harass a cat, and the cat will actually start killing deer and sheep and caching the meat for the wolves. So like,
that would make sense.
He'll kill a deer,
right?
The wolves will get on the deer, and then he'll be able to go hunt in peace and eat in peace.
Because there's a persona around the cats. The number of animals, the sheer number of animals that they kill a year
is a lot.
It's like
a lot. Yes.
I forget what when we were out in Colorado, Tailgates had the exact number. I wish I don't even want to say it.
It was devastating.
It was like 50 elk in a year. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. And like even deer-sized game, I think it might even be up to 1 a day or one every other day.
I think deer was
like
astonishing.
Yeah, right. Like, wow.
And so if the cat kills a deer, and I'm just, this is how I understand it. If a cat kills a deer and the 3 wolves are there and they have a deer, they're just going to take it from him, because a cat can't fight 3 wolves.
Right.
So he'll just, because there's always going to be one triangulating around him. So he's just going to be like, all right, take it. So they're going to have the wolf, or they're going to feed the wolf, and he's going to go on. So I don't know if he was trying to ditch us on his kills.
Thinking you were like wolves?
Yeah, we're harassing him. And then we came over the hill, and William Altman was the photographer on that hunt. And he's like, well, there's a cat right there. And I looked down, and there was a tree that had fallen down, and there was a brand new killed mule deer doe, and the cat was on top of it eating. And that cat turned and looked at us, and he was so upset that we were there. He just turned and just stared at us.
Like sinister looking.
Yeah, and then he just slowly, because he's a huge tom, he just slowly walked up the hill. You could just see his muscles, like you see his scapula.
Annoyed.
Like, coming through, annoyed. And he'd stop, and he'd just look over like he was annoyed that we were interrupting. Yes.
Yeah.
So then at that point, he turned, started heading up the ravine, and then he went past the first power line, then went past the second power line. And then Robin came down the road and released the hounds. And I was one of the only ones that was able to stay with the hounds because I was just so amped up to stay. Because we were post-holing.
Right.
So it was very difficult to keep going in the snow. But I went about a mile uphill, and I got to the cat before anyone. Or maybe at the same time as Ben. I don't totally recall the details, but the cat was just sitting in the tree looking bigger than life, looking down at the dogs, and kind of yawning, just like,
right.
And just, you knuckleheads can't climb trees. And I'm sitting up here, and you're annoying me by, and I love the dogs' personalities, and I wish I remember their names, but it was so funny because I could see the oldest male dog. He was really good hound dog. But I could see him looking in trees because he was kind of like, that's where cats come from.
Right.
They come from the trees. And so I could see him. He'd be like barking and smelling, and he'd be like, nothing.
Just like waiting for it. Yeah.
Nothing, And then I got to see the emotion of the dogs and how excited they were. And I got to see the annoyance of the cat. And then, sure, when it all culminated and Ben said, you don't have to kill this cat, but I just want you to know, if you don't kill it, I'm killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the cat's dying because I need to get my cat numbers down. And I talked to the ministry biologist, and he said the same thing.
Yep.
You have to get the cat numbers down.
Yep.
So when I got up there, I said, you know what? I'm going to shoot it. So I came to full draw, I shot it, killed the cat. And then you see that kind of, for me, famous photo of me carrying the cat out. And that's not to sensationalize the cat. That's not to sit there and tell everyone that I'm a mountain man. But when this amazing, huge, powerful cat was dead in the deep snow, it kind of just looked really diminished to me. And I just thought to myself, I was kind of asking myself, what is the most, I just pictured myself kind of dragging this cat out by the paw, and I thought to myself, that doesn't seem
right.
It just doesn't seem
deserved,
heavy enough of a finish for such an amazing animal and such a big hunt. Like, we were exhausted.
Because you're used to packing, quarters out and work and heavy physical hunts.
There's a lot of work at the end.
And you're looking at this cat. And
absolutely.
You're thinking the same thing. Like, how can I finish this hunt by packing this thing out?
That's right.
And beating my body to the point to where
just earning it, right?
Yeah.
Just another difficult moment.
Right,
another difficult day to build on.
And you felt like, and I just know this because we've ridden around on a truck for 2 days, and we had a chance to talk about this, I believe, yesterday. And you said that shot was like the most anticlimactic shot you've ever had.
Yes.
It was just like, okay.
It's time. Yeah. In fact, I said to Ben, he was standing right next to me, and I go, so what do I do now? And he's like, shoot the cat. And the cat was kind of hidden. And so I actually had to do a little trick shot, which was fine, but it was just a small gap where his heart and lungs were. And so I came to full draw, and I just had to like pick my spot and just shot and killed the cat. And then when I was standing next to the cat, Sam Soholt, who was there as a photographer, and he just very plainly said, the old timers carried him out. And I just heard that sentence, and I turned and I looked at him. I said, did they? And he said, oh yeah, the old timers, like when they, the horsemen would drape him over their horse.
Right.
The old timers that were in the mountains, they'd carry him out until they got down to the horse. And I was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to carry it out. And so, of course, we shot photos, and it went well. And then they might not want me to tell this story, but I've done this at a number of camps that I've been at. So I got back to the camp, and I said, hey, we're going to butcher this cat, and we're going to eat it.
Right.
And a couple of the guys were like, I mean, we can try. We'll try a little bit, but we'll just try a little bit. And I said, have you guys eaten lion? And they're like, oh yeah. We've eaten lion. And I said, oh yeah. And I said, what's it like? And they said, it's not very good. It's just not that good. And and it it can have trichinosis in it.
Just
you have
like
to cook
bear.
it.
Bear,
Yeah,
yep.
just,
Yep.
you know. And
that's always every time you talk, you could get trichinosis from a bear.
Yeah. So I said, okay, no kidding, huh? And okay, well, I said, well, we're going to eat the whole lion.
Yeah. They're like, what?
And I said, well, I'm going to eat the whole lion. You know, maybe not tonight, obviously, because it's big, but eventually.
How big was it?
185 pounds.
Yeah.
Big cat. And so I butchered the whole lion and broke it down to quarters and backstraps and inner loins and sliced it up. And the next day we ate a meal of it for lunch, and we took the backstraps and the medallions inside, and we cut them up and marinated them, or not marinated, we seasoned them with salt and pepper. We put them on the grill in a pan with a little bit of butter, and we just literally seared them all as medallions. And we were also cooking a bear roast, black bear roast, and a bighorn sheep roast in the oven, and we were going to have a little dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
And all these guys that had eaten mountain lion before assured me that they'd eaten mountain lion before and said it wasn't very good. Didn't actually let any of the mountain lion get it to the table, so it was gone.
They were scarfing it up.
They tried one piece at the grill, as you would maybe a scallop or a shrimp, and this entire sheet pan of both backstraps and the inner loins, which is a significant amount of meat from an animal like that. It's as big as a deer.
Because they're long, yep.
Did not make it to the table. Literally did not make it. There were a couple of girls in camp. I don't think a single girl got a piece of that because all the guys ate it before it got to the table.
Caught them in a lie, huh?
And then we made roast out of the back. And then one of the guys that had told me that he had eaten lion before then asked me after we ate it for dinner, because we got down to the virtual last piece of pizza. Mm-hmm. We got down to where there's still a piece of pizza.
The awkward moment, like I said.
The three of us are still hungry, and we're trying to be gentlemen. You go ahead. And really, I'm like, I would stab you in the throat for this piece of pizza. And so you get this awkwardness of, when you have a roast, and then you have the spoon with the slits in it. So you sit forward and like, oh, there's no more, but I know you wanted more because you're digging through the gravy looking for more. And so we ended up eating one of the hindquarters, or a big roast from both hindquarters, backstraps, inner loins, in 1.5 meals. And then one of the guides that had assured me that he had eaten cat before and it did not like it, then pulled me to the side and asked me if he could take the rest of it home for his family. And to which I said, absolutely. And that's kind of like, this is how I like to hunt. I didn't know how I would like cat hunting. I don't know if I'll ever go cat hunting again, but I absolutely love the hounds. I absolutely love the cat. The houndsmen were quirky little men to be around, and it's just kind of like this whole,
the whole experience.
And then to add to that, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I did go on another cat hunt. I went a year later, and oddly enough, I showed up on the cat hunt, and Ben said, we're going to hunt cats. I think I was there for 14 days or 10 days, something like that. He goes, we're going to hunt cats for like 2 or 3 days. And then we have a sheep conservation program, biology project that we have to work on. He's like, you don't have to work on it, and I don't have to work on it, but this is my valley. These are my sheep. Mm-hmm. These sheep are his livelihood. These mountains, the symbiotic relationship in the ecology here is his livelihood. He's a hunting outfitter in this region. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is Ben's interest in his bears and his cats and his mule deer and his sheep trump everyone else's, because this is his livelihood. That's like saying you own a store downtown, and that the person off the street or the person 2 streets over cares more about your merchandise, if you will. And I know I'm not thinking about it in regards to merchandise, but that's what I'm talking about. It's as though your neighbor cares more for your children than you do.
Right.
It's just not true.
Yep.
And so Ben said, and so I ended up going on a second cat hunt. We hunted cats for 2 days, I think, and we found a couple of cats, but none of them were mature. They're all younger females, right. and we're not going to do that. And so we ended up working on this sheep project for the next 10 days. We assisted the biologist, assisted the helicopter pilots, and worked on these sheep. It was a MOVI project because the sheep there have picked up MOVI, which is essentially kind of like a pneumonia from domestic sheep. Mm-hmm. And so the wild sheep it's basically 100% fatal, and it's transmitted. So we'd rocket net the sheep from the helicopter, bring them up. They'd carry them to us from the helicopter. We'd blindfold them, keep them nice and cool with water, and then we'd take a nasal swab, test it. If it tested positive for MOVI, we killed them right there on the spot.
Yeah.
And so we ended up working on, I'm there as a fully paid hunter to hunt mountain lions, and I hunted mountain lions for about a day and a half, and the rest of the time I worked on this MOVI project, and I just told Ben, hey, rather than continue to hunt lions, I would much rather we just work on this sheep project the whole rest of the time.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. It's going to bring so much to this valley, both to the lions.
I looked at things like that
and
because they offer like people to go on those, you know, and just different avenues. Those are fascinating to me.
And it was fantastic. Like I ended up, and to me that was no more or less of a hunt.
Right.
I didn't kill a lion, but I was still in that valley engaging with its wildlife. I was there to experience it, and it was amazing. And so, you know, we kind of run into these things as we kind of go down that road, but there are a bunch of ethics and kind of decisions that have to be made on what you want to hunt, where you're going to hunt. But more importantly, to me, it's how are you going to hunt, where are you going to hunt, and why, and really what are your motivations? Because if your motivations are for some to build some sort of resume, then I would urge you to maybe start looking at your hunting as something a bit more situational, where you want to go into a wild place, you want to truly see a wild space, and you want to find the right animal to hunt, well and good, if you will. And I just think it's that's how I want to hunt.
And I think that's why you've become so popular. Is just because you're so thoughtful about it, thoughtful about the process. You wear it as a heavy responsibility. And one of the last things I want to talk about, you and I started, it was like one of the first things you and I started talking about was trapping.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of hate against trapping, obviously, because of how it's done the old school way, but it's how this country was built, right?
Founded, yeah.
Founded. I mean, I've mentioned before, you know, I'm fascinated with Hugh Glass, Jim Bridger, Jedediah Smith. I think, you know, the Revenant was...
Timber and beavers.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Fascinating. You and I had a discussion about like we hunted turkeys with you this week, the turkey population back at home. I mean, between the predators, and by predators, it doesn't even have to be mountain lion, coyote, fisher, which fishers are an efficient killing machine.
Yeah.
I'm talking about raccoons.
Yeah. Egg eaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they are just and who hunts raccoons?
No one anymore because the fur prices have gone down.
Right.
Yeah.
Fur prices are down. What's the natural predator of a raccoon?
Nothing.
Right.
They're too smart and they have thumbs.
Yeah, they got opposable thumbs. Yeah. And like you said, they're cute, you know?
Yep.
I mean, who hasn't seen the video of the raccoon that went into the guy's garage, grabbed a bunch of the dog food, and goes running out on two legs? You know, and that personified that raccoon, right?
Yeah.
So now it looks like a cute little person, cute little kid running out. And, you know, a hunt that maybe I'm not as proud of anymore, but I've gone raccoon hunting, you know, and I felt not great about it. It felt like straight up murder. You know what I mean? Like you're just going out, you have hounds, kind of not unlike this cat hunt. They're going up the tree, and it's just like, okay, well, there it is.
It's kind of more of a harvest than it is a hunt. Right?
Absolutely.
You're kind of going through. This is a conservation effort.
Right.
Right.
It's something that like that needs to be done.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you would probably try raccoon. I don't know if you.
I'd eat it. I would eat anything.
And I love that about you.
You wouldn't want to be in an airplane crash with me.
I think
right,
my
because you'd eat me. I've heard you say this.
100%.
I think my grandfather's tried raccoon.
I wouldn't kill you to eat
groundhog.
you, but I'd eat you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
As long as you survive, then I guess I live on. But anyhow,
Yeah.
it's the circle of life, right?
Yep.
But I don't know if I'd eat raccoon, and that's why I felt like this heavy burden. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. But I also know that by doing it, several animals are going to be better for it. So that's the heavy burden, and I think it goes back to because we are, you know, one of the 5 great apes with larger brains. We're able to think through this. I mean, you better than a lot of people because you were a biologist, are a biologist. I just think there's just this thing. So now, like me, my dad, he has a snaring license, you know, foothold traps, you know, the anti-hunters, anti-trappers of the world are like, this is horrific. So you're going to catch something, and you only have to check this every 24 hours. So that poor animal has to sit there with its foot in a trap, terrified. But it's like, man, these apex predators, they're tough to get. I mean, go out and try and kill a coyote. I mean, They're smart.
tough.
They're going to circle downwind of you with a call.
They're ghosts.
Sayonara.
Yeah, especially in Pennsylvania. Like there's other areas where they're a little bit easier, but the terrain's open.
Yeah.
But like the apex predators are very hard to yeah.
Yeah, they're good at their craft.
So, I mean, obviously, it's easier for us as hunters to kill a deer, to kill an elk. My dad killed an elk. It's delicious. We're still, working through that. Those are the easy ones. I think it's really neat, your story about the mountain lion, because you say on several podcasts, it's your favorite thing to eat.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
And then the same, you and I had a conversation about bear, like my black bear that I killed in New Brunswick, delicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're
we
amazing.
cooked it the same way you did, by searing it and then throwing it in a slow cooker all day. But what do you say to trapping? Because I know that you've talked you think you're going to have to trap around here.
Yeah, and I this is not something that I was ever interested in, not even a little bit, other than the fact that I knew that trappers were the best hunters. They started to really break down because they knew their animals, they knew their habitat, even better than, there's a lot of hunters that go walking to the woods with a deer rifle and never see a deer because they really don't understand what a deer is. But if you're a beaver trapper, you're never going to see a beaver unless you really understand the biology of a beaver and where they go and how does a beaver use its run, when does it grab its food, how does it store its food, how does it access its food in the wintertime. Like, you need to learn all these things to kill a beaver. And so in learning all these things, you become kind of one with the beaver. You start to think like a beaver a little bit to try to find success and to try to be, to better your craft as being a beaver trapper. And so it just never interested me because I had these sensitivities of the leg trap. I had these sensitivities of the snare because I'm embodying a lot of this stuff like people do. But then I start to realize, I had a friend of mine last year, Sam Solholt, the same gentleman that said the old timers carry them out. Mm-hmm. He said, I think we need to, he asked me if I was interested in coming to North Dakota and doing a raccoon hunt. And I said, well, wait a minute. And I said, and Sam is a soulful guy. And I said, Sam, how are we doing the raccoon? Like, is this just a bunch of guys getting together to do a social media play, and it's going to be beer swilling, and it's going to be a raccoon hunt, and we're going to give all prizes for the heaviest raccoon and the most raccoons and the smallest raccoon and the one with the blackest mask? I'm making this stuff up. And he said, right. No, not at all. He said, none of this. He said, we're going to hunt these raccoons as ethical as humanly possible. This is going to be a hunt, and the reason I'm organizing this is because they are decimating waterfowl and turkey populations, right. and poults, which is a baby turkey. A hen has 8 to 12 poults or something like that, and right now the success ratio for out of 8 to 12 poults is like 1.2 poults makes it. Mm-hmm. So essentially a hen goes through this whole life cycle of getting pregnant from a tom, and then she's laying a clutch of eggs and raising them to get one. Right. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's a big problem in our area in Pennsylvania.
Huge.
Yep.
It's a huge problem, I think, everywhere.
Up.
And I think raccoons, I could be wrong, because I didn't read this myself. A friend of mine told me this. But originally people were thinking, and again, I may misspeak here, but originally people were thinking that raccoons are really hard on the eggs, possums are really hard on the eggs, skunks really hard on the eggs. But a friend of mine just recently told me that in a study that he had read, possums and skunks weren't nearly as hard on turkey eggs as raccoons were.
Right,
like
absolutely.
Raccoons were by and large the culprit of raiding nests. And so Sam is trying to, and I love this about him, he's trying to inspire hunters like myself that were never trappers, never had an interest in trapping, to start having an interest in trapping, not out of generating fur prices, out of generating conservation in their areas. Because if we're only killing turkeys, if we're only willing to hunt turkeys and kill turkeys, if we're only willing to hunt big bucks and kill big bucks, if we're only willing to hunt big black bears, and we stay on this side of the take, we're going to lose an entire ecosystem on this side of the take. So we have to balance this out. We have to, this is what hunters this is where we've lost our way, is that as hunters, we have to be just as concerned about the soils. And as a hunter, you're like, why would I care about a soil or a microbe or ribosomes in a soil? Why would I care about insect and songbirds? And reptiles and garter snakes. Like, why would I even care about any of this stuff? I want to shoot a 180-inch whitetail.
Because that's supporting all of that on that side.
It's a pyramid.
Yep.
You're never going to have that 180-inch whitetail unless your soils. In fact, it all starts with your soils.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to have this foundation in this ecosystem, and it has to come all the way up to where we have to sit there and say, okay, because we have bird feeders at every house, because we have trash cans at every house, because no one is trapping anymore, because people aren't buying furs anymore, because it's now suddenly unpopular to own something made out of animal furs when it used to be our livelihood and how we actually survived winter. These animals are now going unchecked, much like you might see a plant like buckthorn or some of these other non-indigenous plants that are going.
Right.
And then suddenly the forest that we want to be a part of and that we want to engage with and take from and give to is now suddenly so out of whack that it becomes kind of this ecological desert. Like, our turkey tags, and it hits home, our turkey tags went away this year in Wisconsin. Like, usually I draw a tag in the first season, and then we have extra tags that come up for sale, and I'll buy a 4th, 5th, and a 6th. And then in days, and then I'll buy a 2nd, 5th, and a 2nd, 6th, something like that, just in case I want to keep hunting. Well, this year, the turkey tags were basically gone all the way out to 5th and 6th season, and 5th went away right away, and then 6th went away not that long after. And it was, I think, because the tag numbers were way down. I don't totally understand how it went, but I think because our turkey populations are down, because we have so many raccoons, skunks, possums, and other egg eaters, and we have these predators that are super hyper successful, like coyotes at killing turkeys and stuff, that we're just looking at the one part of the equation.
Right.
And if you're really a hunter, you can't just look at, you just can't go on a line hunt. Sometimes you go on a line hunt, you find a movie project, and you have to contribute to the movie project, because then that's going to contribute to the sheep, which is going to contribute to the lions, which is going to contribute to everything right down to the soils. And so we have to look at all of this stuff as symbiosis. And I just challenge hunters a lot. Hunters oftentimes, and you gentlemen are included, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but
No.
hunters oftentimes want to talk about anti-hunters. I want to talk about vegetarians. I want to talk about vegans, when really we have to do so much of a better job ourselves of understanding soils.
Yep.
Educate yourself on what songbirds need. Educate yourself on what insects are needed and need. And we start focusing on that side of things, and I think we're going to stop being monsters to the uninitiated and monsters to the anti-hunters. And
I think we're ultimately monsters to ourselves too.
Absolutely.
And
We're our own worst enemies.
You're absolutely correct.
There's too much fight within this actual community itself. Like, people need to wake up and understand that we all need to be on the same side here, because this could disappear real quick. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the more we focus on the resources and the ecosystems, the less people are going to have to say.
Right.
Like if you actually discuss hunting, animal populations, ecosystems with facts, it's very difficult to argue. For instance, when I post a picture of the cat, people say they're endangered species. That's not true. They're illegal to hunt in British Columbia. Not true.
Right.
Like, the things that you're drawing a line in the sand on are not true. And then people say, why would you? I can't even tell you how many people wrote me and said, oh my God, I can't believe you killed that animal. Why would you kill that animal? You don't eat lion. I said, I ate the whole lion. Yeah. You can't eat lion. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a wives' tale out there that predators are poisonous. Have you guys ever heard that?
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, there's an ancient wives' tale that you can't eat bears, you can't eat lions, you can't, because they're poisonous to you.
Right.
And so, like, it's literally a wives' tale. And they're like, you can't eat a lion. You didn't eat your lion because the meat's poisonous. And here's pictures of the meat. Here's pictures of us eating it. Here are videos of us grilling it and eating it.
I might not eat a puffer fish, but I would definitely eat a lion.
Yeah.
For sure. So I just think hunters really, if we take a little bit less fixating on the antler size of the white-tailed deer, and a little bit more emphasis on what is the ecosystem, what does the entire ecosystem need, not saying things like kill every wolf, not saying things like kill every coyote. Okay, let's look at wolves. How many wolves need to be killed? How do we need to kill the wolves? Well, we need to hunt them. Okay, well, hunting them's not killing them, because we're hunting them and no one's actually seeing any wolves. So how do we really kill wolves? Well, we want to shoot them from airplanes. Well, that doesn't seem very ethical. Well, that's the only way that we're really going to control wolves, is shooting a few of them in a particular area of Alaska. If we shoot wolves from airplanes, we're gonna keep this population in check. If we don't go that route and we just say, hey, hunters, when you're snowshoeing around, if you have a wolf tag in your pocket and you see a wolf, you can go ahead and shoot it. Well, that's going to result in 0 wolves killed. And just like some people are against, bear baiting, or some people are against running cats with hounds and things like that, there are certain elements of hunting that are lined out to help control certain populations, that are help to contribute to a population as a whole. And it's just really how you go about hunting these animals in those particular scenarios, which makes you a better hunter over someone else. It's not what you killed.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you hunt and how much care you have for the resource and how much you care to leave this place a much healthier ecosystem than how you found it, or at the very least, the same, and you thinking about how you can make it better. You start trending that way, and the argument is going to start holding zero water, and no one's going to have really much to say to you at all, because it's all going to be it's going to be a house of cards. It's going to look like a house, but the bricks are going to be paper thin, and they're going to tip over as soon as you touch them.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. We have to start looking at total ecosystem management, right down to you gentlemen came here for a 2-day turkey hunt. Obviously, you can't contribute to Wisconsin turkey hunting or Wisconsin turkey population these days, but here we are having a podcast discussing raccoon populations. Maybe somebody's going to... I had zero interest in trapping raccoons in my life, but now...
Right.
I'm now actually discussing it, starting to trap raccoons around here. And if we could actually start some sort of a, let's just say a summit, if you will. Let's say that TJ and I organize kind of like a quality deer management meetings. Let's say we sat and started meeting with the National Wild Turkey Federation saying, hey, turkey hunters, we are encouraging you guys to set 5 traps on your property over... and I know nothing about raccoon trapping. We're encouraging you to set 5 traps on your property, or 5 traps every 100 acres over the months of January, February, March. I actually have no idea what I'm talking about, but you get my drift.
Right, yeah.
And
right.
you trap as many raccoons as you can with those 5 traps per 100 acres over this 3-month period, and skin them out and do this, and then we're going to try to see how this ecosystem management kind of comes. Like, if hunters are unwilling to engage in that manner, well, then I say you're really not a hunter at all.
Right.
You're a collector or you're a taker, but you're not really here for ecosystem management. And then I say the things that anti-hunters are saying to you, sir, are probably factual.
Right.
And actually the shoe fits. So,
Yep.
And that is Donnie Vincent in a nutshell, because that argument, you're willing to take an inner look at hunters, which you consider yourself obviously a hunter. Mm-hmm. You are a hunter. You're able to take and say, listen, if you're not doing this, then it's on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
100%.
Right.
I mean, and like we've said here, I mean, I feel like hunters are our own worst enemy. 100%.
Yeah. I think most people are your own worst enemy in that regard, right?
That's all within life there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a good place to end there, Donnie. I've wanted to do this with you. I just you have such a passion for it, and you're just so well spoken and educated on the subject. And I think you're just a great steward for hunting. And hopefully people take heed to what you're saying and head that direction, because I think the hunting community needs your message.
Yeah, I think it's just important for us all, to be better people, and to really start to look at this stuff, because the world is in a funny place, and we're talking about funny subjects, and we're making funny decisions, things that don't make any biological sense at all. And if we're going to just take a step back and hit the reset button and really start to look at what matters, I think this is where we want our minds to live, and where we're really going to embody as people and be and proliferate as a species.
Yep,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well,
very good.
I just want to say, man, thank you again so much for this opportunity to come into your home, to interview you, pick your brain, ask you some questions, hear you tell the wolf story for the 50,000th time.
It's awesome.
I'll listen to it 50 more times on your next 50 podcast. TJ walked in. We're going to go to dinner tonight. TJ, thank you so much. He's off.
Best turkey caller here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I know. Yep. And just again, I know that you hate doing it, but we're here for you too. Where can people find you?
Yeah, Donnie_Vincent, DONNIE, Vincent VINCENT. And if somebody's curious as to kind of how I think or where my mind lies, we have a short video on YouTube called Who We Are, another one called Flourish.
Both
kind
excellent.
of embodies where my mind kind of goes with hunting. And these weren't orchestrated written scripts. These were tantrums that I happen to record.
I probably shared both of those probably 1,000 times.
Yeah. So it's and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and then DonnieVincent.com. So
Awesome,
appreciate
man.
you guys.
Thank you so much. We
Absolutely,
greatly
thank you.
appreciate you, sir.
Very good, Donnie. Thank you.
Thanks, boys.
All right. And that's been another episode of the Blueline Bowhunters podcast. Thank you guys very much for listening.
Check out the Blueline Bowhunters on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or their website, www.bluelinebowhunters.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, watch your six.